Hi, everyone, and welcome to Live from the Pink Couch. I'm Cheryl Grace, and this is the Pink Couch, and we're actually here tonight. We're not separated from each other. I'm not traveling this week, and we have such an exciting program for you tonight. Let me give you an overview for those of you who are joining us for the first time. Live from the Pink Couch is a web series in which we coach for independent individual professionals who are at different places within their career. And we help coach them to advance to their next level, whatever that looks like. So we help them get what we call their pink elephant to achieve their pink elephant goals. What's a pink elephant, Cheryl? Well, a pink elephant is your biggest, most audacious goal that you have to lean into a little bit in order to accomplish. And you have to rely on your faith. And also, you have to ask for help. And so we coach individuals, we bring in specialized coaches who can help our four professionals get to that pink elephant goal. And when you do reach that goal, what I love to say is you get booted off of the pink couch. Now, this is the only place that I know that getting booted off of the couch is a good thing because it means you've achieved your goal. So I'm going to introduce each one of the participants to you individually, but I want to start first of all with a very special guest. Her name is Lori Parfit. Lori, say hi.
Hi.
And Lori is an accomplished executive leader and coach who inspires companies with her vision for what's possible and her ability to execute and drive results. She has 2 decades of driving innovation and execution across multiple functional areas with companies that include startups to Fortune 500, such as Kraft Foods, Beam Suntory, Miscan, and Mission Dispensaries. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay. Now, Lori has her own company, and through her company, LKP Impact Consulting, she works with cannabis and consumer products companies on marketing leadership, brand strategy and design, consumer insights, and commercial go-to-marketing strategy. So, Lori, we kind of know each other, at least from the research industry and the consumer insights industry, right?
We do. I spent many years in category analytics.
Exciting, fun stuff. And now you're in it really was. And now you're you're doing a lot of work with cannabis companies, and you're also quite the thought leader and spokesperson, and you can be found at very cannabis expos and conferences. So the Cannabis Conference, the Cannabis Beverage Expo, Illinois Women in Cannabis, and the Hatchery. So we've got the perfect person lined up for you to talk to tonight, because guess what she's interested in?
Cannabis?
So I want you to meet Lynn. Lynn is our hopeful. And our hopeful was displaced or has quit or lost their job as a result of COVID, or have been flat out fired and looking for a fresh start. Now, Lynn was actually displaced in 2021, and she is an HR professional with 14 years of experience in the government sector, and she's actually seeking corporate stability in a C-suite position, earning at least $200,000 a year. And her pink elephant goal is to get that $200,000 salary as a VP of compensation and benefits for a healthcare, or, you guessed it, cannabis company that's located in the Pacific Northwest or a coastal area. Now, I know you're a little bit far from the coastal, but you got the cannabis market down pat. So we wanted to make sure that we connected the two of you and that you had an opportunity to talk. And what we're going to do is I'm going to turn the camera over to the two of you to have a conversation for the next 15 minutes. Lynn, meet Lori. Lori, meet Lynn. And we want to make sure that this is an exchange that Lynn will find helpful in gaining employment in this manufacturing industry.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. First question, Lori, other than thank you very much for being here. How did
Oh,
you
it's my
transi-
pleasure. I'm so excited to talk to you. I get to talk about my favorite subject.
How did you transition from the non-cannabis sector into cannabis? Because that seems to be a difficult thing. I've seen it pretty much done from a packaging section. That seems to be easily transferable, but that's the only sector I've seen where it's been an easy transition. Nobody else that I've talked to has made it a very easy transition. So I'd like to hear your story.
Sure, absolutely. So I spent like 17 years in CPG. Prior to that, I was in financial services. I worked across finance, sales, operations, and marketing. So I am multifaceted. And to be honest with you, I had been working for 5 years at a consumer products company, and I was bored out of my mind. And one of my leaders from a previous company, who's also my mentor, and the person I have always felt that I could truly be myself with, had an opportunity to become the president of a multi-state operator, an MSO. And I was his reference. So he asked me for help. He was interested in joining the industry, and I helped him. And about a month later, he called me and said, "How would you like to come over and be the head of marketing?" And so, to be honest, I am a very high risk person. I don't mind taking risks. I don't need stability. And I needed the change. And so I got lucky and I hopped over into the cannabis space. And so I oversaw marketing and customer experience for 10 dispensaries across 6 states. It was still very much in startup mode, and I built everything from the brand strategy to the activation plan, digital, social, PR. I did all of customer experience and outreach and our customer support center. And I actually did a lot of our culture development as well, because I actually based our culture off of our brand essence.
Great. Based on your experience, would you say that the multi-state organizations are more common than the single state organizations in the cannabis industry?
I wouldn't say more common. I would say that, I mean, I am in Chicago, which is multi-state operator haven. So we have Cresco here, we have GTI, we have Verano, all based right here in Chicago. And so, of course, the multi-state operator I worked for was not based in Chicago. So that was kind of interesting. But multi-state operators are very prevalent. But single state operators or regional operators are very prevalent as well. And if I remember correctly, you're in the state of Michigan?
Yes.
So in Michigan, there's a ton of state operators.
Right. It's Michigan tends to favor single state operators. That's the way the law was written.
Mm-hmm.
On the multi-state operators, do they tend to favor medicinal or medicinal and recreational?
Oh, recreational for sure. I mean, they all started out as medicinal because that's how we all had to enter the industry.
Right.
But adult use brings in a lot more than medical. So when it comes to dollars and cents, the multi-state operators favor adult use.
What impact do you think there will be on the industry if the federal government decides to take off the restrictions and legalize cannabis from a federal standpoint?
So it's a great question, and I get asked this a lot. And my answer, I always hesitate when I give it. So just hear it out the whole way. I think it will be a sad day in the industry when we see federal legalization. And the reason for that is, I want everybody to have access to the plant. And I don't think there should be restrictions on consumer access. However, this is such a wonderful entrepreneurial industry where we are seeing people who would never have had the chance to start businesses and become successful thrive in this industry. And for me personally, I have found my place in the world where I feel most comfortable. And if you look even at the multi-state operators, those leaders are entrepreneurs. They weren't CEOs in other sectors before. So a lot of them were lawyers. They worked in the government, or they had other types of careers. This industry has given them the opportunity to rise up and do something really amazing. When we see federal legalization, and I think it's going to be probably 7 to 10 years away, we're going to see the entrepreneurial spirit of the industry dissipate. And for me, that's the part that's going to be really sad. And so right now, single state operators, social equity candidates, all of them are railing against the MSOs. They're saying, they're kind of the big bad wolf. I believe when federal legalization happens, they're going to seem like cuddly kittens, and we're going to be begging for them to come back, because we're going to see big pharma, big alcohol, big CPG, and big tobacco come in and take this industry over, and it's going to become just like every other industry. And for me, that's truly sad, having come in at the beginning and seen how amazing this could possibly be.
That's sort of my take on it. And I wondered if that was your take as well. So
yeah, so as I said, I'd love to see free access for everybody, but I really want to keep this wonderful entrepreneurial spirit that we all have. We all know each other. I go to conferences now and I feel like I'm home, like I'm with my people. And every time I have to miss one, it makes me so sad, because I feel like I'm missing out on seeing all these amazing people that I've gotten to know over the past few years. So Lynn, what makes you want to join the cannabis industry?
Well, quite honestly, I was misdiagnosed by Western medicine at one point and found that I was able to significantly improve my health through the use of cannabis products. And I think that's something that should be available to everybody. And, I think it's a great fit as well. My experience in government, I have experience at the local, the state, and the federal level, working through, planning commissions, the city councils, state legislatures, federal regulatory bodies. So a good understanding of how to navigate that entire regulatory system all the way through. So a great transition with all of that, experience. And also, it's an industry that really takes care of their people. And I read an article recently where a new cannabis organization had just formed and their employees were unionizing, and they were celebrating the fact that their employees were unionizing because they want to take care of their employees. And as an HR professional, I think that's great, because taking care of the employees is important. And so I think it's just a great fit for everything that I do, that I love, and that's important to me.
I think that's fantastic. I love it when someone has a personal story about what brings them in, because that's what ties a lot of us in the space together, is those personal stories and building a community across the industry and across consumers. So I think that's fantastic. So an HR professional, we don't have a ton of them in the industry.
But with the growth of multi-state organizations and with more states legalizing recreational, it's going to continue to grow, and HR professionals are something that they're going to need.
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, having worked in consumer products for so many years, I come from big organizations with huge HR teams where, it was always like, a standard to have it. And in the cannabis space, I've actually found it to be a big miss, because I think cannabis operators would truly benefit from having amazing HR professionals. A lot of times the HR professional is the office manager or the general counsel. And as great as they are at their jobs, they are not HR professionals. And so if you were to come in as, a chief people officer, which seems to be the new title that we see in the cannabis space, what would you like to bring to either a multi-state operator or a single state operator? What do you think you could contribute?
Well, I'm a certified senior HR professional. So I bring all of that experience. So I can bring succession planning. I can bring strategic planning for the organization as they expand into new states. I have experience with planning their benefits and retirement plans for their organizations to make sure that they, again, take care of their employees. Experience doing compensation studies, putting together personnel handbooks, making sure that they follow all of the regulations, state and federal wise. Have experience in 3 different states doing that, as well as having worked with a Fortune 500 company prior to getting into government. I've worked in 2 different countries in terms of HR. So I've got experience both in the US and France in terms of that. So I think I can bring a lot of experience into this space and a lot of energy as well.
I think that's wonderful. So what makes you want to go out to the West Coast versus stay in the Midwest, which is a very nascent part of the industry?
I love saltwater. I love being on a saltwater beach. Nothing against the Great Lakes. I've been in the Michigan area for about 12 years, although I'm not a Great Lakes state person by birth. But I kind of like to get away from the snow, quite honestly.
Oh, I don't blame you there. I went to college in Michigan, I remember.
So if I could find some place where, even if it rained more days a year than it was sunshine, but I didn't get snow, I would be happy.
I think that's wonderful. So the West Coast is a very developed market. So when you look at Washington, Oregon, California, that is a very developed area for cannabis. And so, are there any particular companies that you're targeting out there?
So the last question then, I guess, Lori, would be, having looked at Lynn's resume, and you in the industry, are there any recommendations or suggestions you can give to her about her resume as it relates to the cannabis industry?
Yes, I would make your resume much more HR specific. When I looked at it, I saw a lot of government, which I think is really important. And I think you definitely want to show that balance, because having experience dealing with the bureaucracy of local and state government is paramount in the cannabis space. But because you want to be an HR professional, you want to show that you're much more of a people officer. Okay. And that you've done a lot of that change management, you've done a lot of that compensation, those handbooks, and really bring that to the forefront. I think that would be very helpful for you. If we were not running out of time, I would ask you about how you're applying for roles, because I do have some suggestions as not going through the online submissions as much as you possibly can, but really trying to network and meet people within the industry. And I could definitely introduce you to a couple in your field that could actually help you get into those roles. I find that most professionals who are successful in the cannabis space are the ones networking, meeting the right people, and looking at those roles before they even open up.
I love it. Love to connect with you.
I would love that.
I will make sure that you all have each other's information, and that you exchange that and can connect and continue the conversation.
Thank you, Cheryl. And Laura, thank you very much. This has been great. I really wish I could spend more time with you, but I've got to get to this meeting.
No worries. We'll schedule more time separately, and I'm happy to walk you through anything.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Ladies, thank you. Have a great rest of your meeting, and I will see you all in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Thanks, Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
Lori, thank you so much for spending this time talking with Lynn. She is so passionate about the industry, and it's literally palpable. She and I had a conversation yesterday, day before yesterday, and I went through the resume as we are doing mock interviews with everyone. And I made the same suggestion that it was the resume was not very heavily focused on HR, that I didn't even see the word HR on the resume. And it's really important when you are going after a role that it's very clear right away, what kind of role you're going after and what experience you bring to that. So my suggestion was that she creates a transferable skills section so that it is very clear what she brings from the other industries that she's worked in, the government sector, and that's clear. Do you, when you made the transition, and I know that it was done based on your story by networking, but when you made the transition, were you at all concerned about coming from one sector to another? And how did you make that transition seamless?
Yes, so I definitely was. The perception in a lot of other industries is that cannabis is just another consumer product, and it's not. And so I see a lot of consumer products professionals just say, oh, I can hop over here because it's just, another product. But the thing is that the way cannabis operates, it's not. There's so many regulatory compliance guidelines you need to adhere to, so many things you cannot do because it's not federally legal. The closest industry to this is sort of a combination of alcohol and pharma.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like a combination of that is really what the cannabis space is. And so when you come into the cannabis space, what you think you know, you really have to step back and say, I got to learn and I've got to listen. And so when I entered the industry, I entered as a chief marketing officer. I came in and I didn't have a great background in cannabis. And the person who they had working for me, she had no background in marketing, but she had a great background in cannabis. So I cut a deal with her and I said, look, if you smashed us together, we'd be the perfect person. But I'll teach you marketing, you teach me cannabis, and we'll do great together. And that's how we did it. And we approached everything together. I worked hand in hand with her, and I learned what I needed to learn. And there's a ton of nuances, especially on the marketing side, where you come from CPG, where you have big marketing budgets. You don't have that in cannabis. And on the HR side, as I said, there's not a lot of HR professionals. The general counsel is usually doing it. They don't have a generalist. They don't usually have a recruiter. And so you really have to learn to be very scrappy in this industry and work with what you've got. And that's kind of the fun of it. So transitioning is challenging, but once you get it, I feel like I've found my place in the world and my passion in life.
That's so important, to feel like you belong when you get up and go to work every day. That is great. And I think that's what everyone is looking for. We've got Alex, who has a passion for pets. And we have Kristen, who has a passion for photography. And we've got Tiffany, who wants to work in the bling industry, the luxury industry, and also an HR professional. So each of them are bringing their own respective passions to the area. And what we're going to do next is we're going to have them share with us their elevator pitch when they meet individuals for the first time. If you don't mind staying for a couple of seconds longer, I don't know if you have to go, but
no, I'm happy to help.
So what I'd love you to do then is as I introduce each person, what I normally do is I introduce them and give their background, their info, but I'm going to do that on the back end after they have I'm flipping it up on you all because you got to be ready. You got to be on your toes. So I'm going to have you all introduce yourself to Lori, giving your elevator pitch, and I'm going to be timing it, so each person shouldn't go over a minute, minute and a half at the max. And then I'll tell you who is who according to our hashtag next level tribe, which is what we call all of our participants. So who wants to go first and introduce yourself to Lori?
I'll go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jeez. Hi, Lori.
Hi.
My name is Kristen, and being an entrepreneur for 14 years, I know how difficult it can be for some to put themselves out there. So out there and online, I should say. So I offer bold and impactful brand photography for entrepreneurs and small business owners that want to show up and stand out. And so through your curated personal branding experience, I will help you express your, I'll help you express your personality, convey your values, and tell the story of your brand so that you can effortlessly attract and connect with your ideal clients.
I love that. I don't know why you were afraid to share that. That was amazing.
Thank you.
You told me exactly what you're going to do for me and how it applies to me. And that was a great sell. And as someone who does hire photographers, I love that.
Thank you. I guess
Yeah.
my, just like, well, I guess we'll talk about it later, Cheryl, but yeah, that was mine.
No, that was really good. And we'll go back and talk through it. But I did feel like you shared everything with Lori. And Lori she has her own company. So she fits into your target market in that, photography, she can use it. She's really great, Lori. So just to keep that in mind. So Kristen is our Career 2.0 star. The Career 2.0 star is looking to perform in a totally new role or change of industry. And she was a professional makeup artist for 14 years, specializing in working in television and commercials, print advertising, and working with celebrities and major brands. So her pink elephant goal is to establish a photography branding business that earns $60,000 in revenue in year one. So all of them get homework assignments each episode. And the homework assignment for last session for today was to create and practice their elevator pitch. So bravo, Kristen, you did a great job. Thank you also for volunteering. Now, I just need to tell you all that a part of leadership is stepping up. That's Cheryl's pink couch tip for the day, which is volunteer when you have the chance and don't be afraid to be bold. Now, with that being said, who would like to introduce themselves next to Lori?
Can do it.
All right, Alex, yay.
Okay. Hello, my name is Alex. I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, and in the summers, I spent the summers at my grandma's farm where I showed sheep for 9 years. In doing so, I developed a passion for taking care of animals. My favorite part of showing sheep was taking care of them when they were sick, with or without the help of a veterinarian. That passion drove me to pursue a degree in animal sciences at Purdue University, where I graduated in May 2021. And I would love to get some experience at your company, and I think I'd be a great asset to your team.
That was really good, Alex. I'm sorry, go on, Lori.
I think that was really good. I like how you spoke about your history and what you had done in the past. My one bit of feedback would be, tell me what you can bring to my business. What would you like to do, and where do you think you could add value?
I'll have to think about that. Yeah.
I know it's hard to do as a recent college grad, because it's hard to kind of put into words what you want to bring, but think about any business that you're talking to. They have a problem they need solved. So what is that problem, and how are you going to help them solve it?
Okay.
And so in order for her to do that, when they're making that introduction, to someone that they don't know, you can pivot a little bit if you know anything about the company. And if you don't know anything about the company, then just make it a little bit more generic, right?
Yep.
Good. Very good. Very good, Alex. Thank you. Tiffany, you must go now.
Yes. Hi, Laurie. It's so nice to meet you. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a human resources professional. I specialize in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've worked in a multitude of industries, including the luxury industry. I've worked in aviation. I've also worked in sports entertainment. I'd love to really talk to you some more as a fellow risk taker about how we can encourage people to bring their whole selves to their jobs, all of the parts of them that are unique and special and different. I'd love to talk to you about pivoting for some of our clients who'd like to pivot into a different role. And I'd love to learn more about that with you and possibly collaborate on some projects.
I love that. I love the way you actually took something I had said and put it into your elevator pitch. It made me feel like you listened.
Yes.
And you were thoughtful about how you approached me. So I really like that. I think that's a really interesting way to approach it. And I like your perspective on HR. And the fact that you have diversity, equity, and inclusion is incredibly important these days, and one of the fastest growing areas of human resources. So that's very exciting.
Thank you.
Hey, very
Thanks for the
good.
feedback. Thank you
Very
for the
good.
feedback.
So Tiffany is our rising star. The rising star is working or has been working at the same company and looking to advance. Either they're within the company via a promotion or open to external growth opportunities. She is also an HR professional specializing in operations and delivery. She's got 15 years of experience, and the last 3 years she's been working for a luxury retail brand. Her pink elephant goal is seeking a promotion to talent acquisition manager with emphasis on diversity and inclusion for a luxury retail brand, or an alcohol and spirits or sports entertainment role in New York, earning $125,000 a year. So meet
Wow.
Tiffany, our rising star.
I love that. And I come from the alcohol industry, so that's very cool.
So
I'm definitely going to connect with you.
I would love that. And I definitely want to hear what luxury brand you've been working on. That sounds so exciting.
Absolutely.
and then we have Alex, the newbie. Alex gave a great introduction, but I don't think I told you that the newbie is a recent college graduate looking for their first job. And Alex graduated from Purdue University in 2021 with a BS in Animal Sciences and is seeking their first professional role, all of which was included in their elevator pitch. And the pink elephant goal for Alex is that they're seeking an entry-level role with animals in the pet or veterinarian industry, and we still don't know exactly how much Alex wants to make, but we think we want her to make at least $40,000. I'm going to put that down there, Alex, for you.
Okay.
Well, I think that's totally possible. And there's a lot you can do within the pet sector. So I actually ran the pet category for a couple years. And there's a lot of brands, especially if you're still in the Illinois area, where you can actually partake in the industry and get some really amazing experience. So I'd be curious to know what you want to do in the pet industry and how you want to apply your background.
That's a great question. I really am open to anything and everything. I just love working with animals by itself, like whether that's working at a pet store or working hands-on with animals. I think I would prefer hands-on, but like I said, I'm open to pretty much everything. I'm not picky.
But you want to interact with animals directly.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I didn't know all of this about Lori and the intersectionality that she has with all of your roles, basically. So if there are questions that you all want to ask Lori based on her background that she shared with you, now would be a great time before we let her go on to enjoy her evening.
I'm open. Ask me anything.
Oh, was someone about to go? Oh, I'll ask. So I was particularly interested in the fact that you said that you've taken risks. And I wanted to know, where in your career have you taken a really big risk and it paid off more than you thought it would?
Everywhere. So I actually got my degree in merchandising management from Michigan State. And out of college, I decided not to go into merchandising. I decided I wanted to try my hand at finance. And so I became a stockbroker and trader for Morgan Stanley, where I ended up getting my Series 7, 63, 65 and life and health insurance licenses. And I spent a year there, and I didn't end up staying in the industry, but then I hopped over to CNA Financial, where I ran investor relations and rating agencies and regulatory FP&A, and that gave me a really solid foundation. And I always say that that is the job that kind of made my career, really taught me how to be a professional. And it was a huge risk to go into finance after being in merchandising. And so everything I've done in my career, whether at the time it seemed risky or at the time it didn't seem like the right decision, at the end of the day, it all led me to where I am now. And so as I look back, and I've had good experiences and I've had not so good experiences, and I've had one really not good experience, but I look at that, the bad experience I did have, I learned something from it. And coming out of that, I ended up in a great organization. But had I not had that experience where it was really rough on me, I might not have made it in the next organization, because I had to have a very high tolerance. And that ended up being what I needed to be successful. And as I look back on that, it's made me the leader that I am today. And so that's why I believe in taking risks, because whatever happens, it's part of that journey that gets you to the next step. And so when I joined the cannabis space, I didn't go into like the next part of what happened. My timing was terrible. And so we ended up with the credit crunch, the capital markets crunch in the cannabis sector. And they started selling off my dispensaries, and they blew up our leadership team. And marketers across the entire cannabis space were all let go at the same time. And so I was devastated when it happened to me, because I had found my true passion in life and I didn't know how I was going to make that all work. And I ended up, it was COVID and I was out of work and it was terrible. And I ended up doing some consulting, and, I just did it as a stopgap, not in the cannabis space, but I ended up loving it. And rather than apply for other jobs, I decided to take that effort and put it into my consulting and really try. And it got me back into the cannabis space. And so I was able to pivot back in, and now I've created my own success. And the only way I could have done it was by having taken that multi-state operator job. That gave me the credibility in the industry. And even though the end of that was devastating for me, I'm so grateful I had that experience, because my life now is so fantastic. I am living my dream. I'm living my passion. Wow. And it's all because of that. But at the time, I was so upset and beside myself. So it's really about the journey, and every step in that journey is about getting you to the right place.
Wow, thank you so much. I can hear the passion in your voice when you speak about it. And I'm sure that you're clients definitely feel that passion when you speak to them. I thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And if you ever have questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you at
Absolutely.
any time.
I would love to. I would love to. Thank you for that offer.
I will make sure that you have everyone's contact information, or everyone has Lori's contact information, and the onus will be on you. If you ask for a number, just like at a nightclub, if a guy asks for your number, the onus is on him to call you. So we're going to do that same strategy as it relates to networking. If you ask someone for their information or take their card, this is a Cheryl's Pink Couch tip. If you ask for a card or a person's contact information, the onus is on you to be the one to reach out. And Lori, I also want you to know that we have what we call our Pink Couch tips. So there were several coaching Pink Couch tips that you shared. Pink Couch tip number 1, don't be afraid to take risk. Pink Couch tip number 2, learn from the bad experiences. And our guest coach Pink Couch tip number 3, it's about the journey. Embrace the pivot. Did I get those right? Is there another one that you'd like to add? Because those are all really strong.
The other one I would say is, regardless of what happens to you, always lead with love. If you put love out into the world, it comes back. Positivity, love, high energy always circles back to you. So no matter what situation you're in, lead with love and it'll eventually turn around.
That's fabulous. I love it. Regardless of what happens to you, always lead with love. Questions? Anybody else have any questions from Lori? She's done everything and she can
I
help
have.
you, right? So
I have a quick
now's the time.
Yeah, I have a quick question, Lori. I'm just curious as to know how has your company gone about, you and your company gone about finding and hiring photographers?
So that's a great question. And I actually started hiring photographers when I was at Mission Dispensaries. I had somebody who was a patient care consultant in one of our dispensaries, and he showed me his photography, and I thought it was amazing. He made really boring things look beautiful. And so when I hire photographers, I look at your work, and that's what I'm looking for. I want to see you bring the best out in something. And especially since I am in the cannabis space, it's a lot of photography of flower, of vape pens, of pre-rolls, of capsules, things like that, and edibles. And I want to see how you make that beautiful.
Thank you.
I have a question for Kristen as well. So when you are looking at the photographer's work, does the number of years that they've been in the business factor into your decision?
Me?
Yes.
No, not at all. I'm looking for talent. And when I see talent, I know it. And I don't care if you have 1 year or you have 20 years.
Okay. I love that answer, Kristen. Did you?
Absolutely. Yeah, Lori, thank you so much. And I'll definitely be following up with you, as I'd love to show you some of my work and see if you can.
I would love that.
All right.
Well, Lori, thank you so much for joining us this evening as a guest coach. Round of applause for our guest coach, Lori Parfit. And I will make sure that the participants all have your information. So if you could take their calls or LinkedIn requests when they send them out, I would really appreciate it. And I thank you so much for spending this time with us. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, Cheryl, thank you so much. I've always admired you, and I'm so excited to be here on your show today. And thanks to all of you for sharing with me. I'm excited to continue to connect with you, and I'm here to answer any questions you ever have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lori.
Thank
Lori.
you.
Bye.
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 She was just great, right?
She really was.
She really was, and has a diverse background in so many of the areas that touch on what you all are interested in. And so I would really encourage having a conversation with her about various opportunities just to have it and to network. She knows people in the pet industry. She knows people, clearly who need HR professionals, and she's hiring photographers. So yeah, I each one of you should make a point to call her and ask her additional questions. Um, Alex, one of the things I love was she didn't do what she went to school for and still ended up, really loving what she does. And I think it's really important to talk to people about how they got from here to there in their respective careers, because you'd be amazed at what some people went to school for and where they ended up. So that's all great. You all did a wonderful job. Tiffany, did you have a question?
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
you all did a wonderful job, all of you, with your elevator pitches. So talk to me about what you were thinking while you were giving it, what you were thinking while you put it together. What was that experience like for you?
Well, so while I was giving it to Lori, I did want to include, and I kind of left space in I'll leave space in any elevator pitch that I do to reflect back to the person that I'm speaking to, something that they've mentioned or something that I might have learned or heard about them.
She really liked that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to do. So I'm thinking about, let's say if I were talking to an executive leader at my company, I've already researched them. I've already looked at articles or YouTube videos where they've spoken, so that I can have like a small nugget to say, oh, I really enjoyed the way that you spoke about such and such. So I've already decided to leave a small part of my elevator pitch for that. And then I think the other thing that I really wanted to convey in my elevator pitch is enthusiasm. And it just so happened that Lori spoke to that a little bit. Like, we want to be able to convey that we're enthusiastic and energetic and passionate about whatever it is that I am pitching to whoever I'm speaking to. And the other thing that I know that I always want to do in my elevator pitch is offer a way for me to add value to whatever the person that I'm speaking to is doing. How can I help them? How can I be on their team? How can I support what they're doing? So that those are the components that I put together for the elevator pitch. My elevator pitch, at least.
And those are really great elements to include. What suggestion do you have? Because I know she kind of threw Alex a little bit for a loop when the question was, what can you bring to the company? And you're right out of school. So can you help Alex identify, how would one answer that question?
So I think when you have a small amount of experience, focus on the experience. Like, I would have wanted to know more about the time that you spent. Did you say sharing sheep?
Showing
sheep. Like,
Showing.
What goes into that? Like, there's a certain amount of organization that goes into it, and you might not be thinking about it critically. You might only be thinking about, oh, this is something that I did for 9 years, but there are elements of that are critical to getting that done. And so I think if you focus on that, whether it's, I don't know, like if you have to weigh the sheep, that's analytics. If you have to, I'm not sure like what goes into that, but I think that just looking at that more critically, look at where is it metrics based? Like, are you looking at, I don't know about sheep.
We don't know a lot about sheep.
We don't know a lot about sheep.
But
I'm just saying, like, even things like that, or even like school activities. Look at how have you organized anything? What have you participated in? Did you do a book drive? Did you do a food drive? Did you do a coat? All those things are organizational skills. And you can talk about the parts of those projects that you might have done that would really transfer into a business where you would be paid. If
Great
you were a Girl
advice.
Scout, if you were on the usher board at your church, those are all great experiences to talk about.
Great advice, because Alex, with their resume, has experience working in research and was it chickens, poultry,
Yeah.
Alex, and pulled out some of the analytics on how long it took chickens to hatch. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
So there are analytics. I also, when you were talking about, what can you pull from the sheep experience, I would imagine it takes a lot of patience, because you always hear the phrase, it's like herding sheep. So there's got to be patience somewhere built into that, Alex, and maybe even having that as a part of the story. Like if you've ever heard it's like herding sheep, it's because you need a great deal of patience, and I'm a patient person. And however you turn that into a benefit for you, I think that was great, because I did watch her eye movements as you all were speaking. And when you talked about your first time that you talked about sheep, she was like, it was a wow moment. So I think that's going to happen. It happens to all of us. When you start talking about sheep, we're like, wow, we don't know anybody that talks about sheep.
Yeah.
So lean into that, lean into your uniqueness, and I think you'll be fine. So I would just suggest those couple of other recommendations, which is add how you can help someone by your experience, and like Tiffany said, maybe that's your analytical experience that came out of working with sheep or doing the research, or the patients that came from herding sheep. But otherwise, I thought it was really good. I thought you all did a great job. And Miss Kristen, I'm so glad she said, what did she say about talent?
That it speaks volumes versus the number of years that you've actually been doing what it is that you're doing.
Okay, so if you don't believe me, and if you don't believe Carl, here's a totally random, person that you just met who hires photographers and looks for talent, not years of experience.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
Anybody else about the whole elevator pitch experience? No? No questions? Any questions for me, period?
What's our homework for next time?
Oh, I don't have a homework assignment for you all for next time, because we're still doing the mock interviews. And so we have you scheduled for mock interviews. And when I go through your mock interview, you'll have some homework after that. Okay. So yeah, we got Lynn's interview done, and the rest of you are scheduled for next week. So that'll be your homework assignment. I'll give you assignments after we go through that. Fear not. Okay, so what I'm going to say for everyone's homework assignment is come prepared for the mock interview, and your homework assignment will be making the suggestions and the edits after we have our conversation.
Question for you, Cheryl.
Yes.
I guess my situation, I feel like, being in the creative space is a little different than everybody else's, because I'm not actually interviewing for a position. So I'm just kind of curious as to, I don't know if that's something you're able to share, but kind of what our experience will look like. How do I prepare?
Oh, honey, I've hired a lot of photographers in my time.
Mhm.
And trust me, they get interviewed.
Mhm.
I look at the portfolio that they bring, but I also interview them.
Okay.
So I have questions for you. Fear not.
Okay.
Yeah, I have questions for you.
Okay.
Good question. Anybody else? Okay, well, it's another Thursday. Happy live from the Pink Couch. Happy live from the Pink Couch. And I will see you all next time. And remember, just stay in action. Okay,
All right. Thank
Bye.
you. Cheryl. Bye, ladies.
thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Check out the progression of all of our participants at Cheryl's channel of Fabulosity on YouTube, or learn more about the coaching programs and services we offer at IamCherylGrace.com. This has been a Powerful Penny LLC Pink Elephant production.